Every Monday we sort out the problems of the world with Gemma Tognini from GT Communications. On the desk here with me and Caroline Di Russo, Royal Report host, joining us from Perth. I watched the Royal Report last night. You'll be pleased to hear, Caroline. We'll get to some of those issues later, but I want to start off on the Dunley by-election and cost of living issues. And you would have expected a better result from the Liberals given the cost of living issues are so strong. There's a cost of living crisis, Caro.
There is a cost of living crisis, and look, we know that the Labor government made the changes to the Stage 3 tax cuts precisely to prop up the result in Dunley. Now, we know, I think the median wage in Dunley is about $42,000, and those people will benefit from that tax cut. So it might not be immediate, but I can totally understand why people did it. And like many people have discussed, the reason that they went to a by-election was not because of cut and runs. Very sadly, a very popular politician has passed away. So, look, I was pretty happy with it, to be perfectly honest. It landed about where I thought it would land, and it is a huge improvement on Aston last year.
Yeah, look, you can't say it's bad news for the Liberals, Gemma, but it's. I would have thought it's disappointing. They would have expected to push Labor closely, especially when they did break that big election promise to rejig the tax cuts.
I don't know that you've got more experience at the coalface of politics than I do by a significant margin, CK, but I think also that apart from what Caroline just said, it's Victoria.
Yeah.
I mean, the joint with respect is a basket case.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, I think they failed to manage expectations because you've got to outperform your expectations, and they had a lot of the country thinking otherwise, whereas Labor, the other way, Labor managed expectations well. Albo was saying 7% swing against them. They could lose the seat, and that would be average.
I think the government has a conga line of pain heading its way.
Yeah, I agree.
As a voter who's been in the socialist state of West Australia, now lives in New South Wales, I looked at Victoria, and I was in Victoria last week for 4 or 5 days, and I must admit it was a bit of a shock to my system. So I'm not super surprised, but I think the government would if they're not well aware by this stage, they should be awake to the fact that the pain has just begun for them. Yeah,
no, I agree. That's why I say we're headed most likely for a minority Labor Greens government, which would be a tragedy because it's a big barrier for the Liberals to win all the seats they need because of all those Teals and Greens. But you never know. But I do think that it's going to be pretty tough for Labor at the next election. I wanted to stay on cost of living for a moment. This report today, Caro, that it's annoying because we're all stuck with it, right? We're paying nearly $1 billion a year in fees because we're tapping and going, paying with our credit cards and our phones and our watches, right? The reason this is annoying is because in many places it's harder to pay with cash. They're forcing you to pay this way, so we're sort of adding expenses to ourselves.
The ones that really annoy me, Chris, are the ones where you have to pay by card and then they still put the fee on top. Like, just increase the price. We don't actually have a choice. Why are you pretending like we have a choice? Look, I do like this policy from the RBA, this least cost routing. And Chris, I have an online business. It's a small business, but as a small business, we absorb the cost of these merchant fees. I got an email from Stripe last week saying your merchant fee is going down from 1.75% to 1.7%. And while that might not sound like a lot, either the size of the fee or the reduction, if your business is turning over in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, that does add up pretty quickly. So it is a welcome relief for small business. I think only about 60% of providers have actually implemented it, and I think it should be more broadly implemented. But absolutely, people should always have the option of paying with cash, and quite frankly, it's one of those things that, Chris, it just slightly gets under my skin anytime a service provider or a business adds it on top. We absorb it because, much like shipping, people expect it.
Yeah, and I think this is why people it really annoys them, because it's an added cost that they just can't avoid. I want to skip to another issue with you, Gemma, and it's obesity in Australia. 3 million of us over. I speak about this from a position of great virtue today. I hit the scales at just under my 1984 playing weight today, so I'm pretty happy. But I'm all for people getting fit and losing weight and healthy diet, but why do they say the only way to tackle this is to more laws, to limit the ads on junk food?
We're stupid.
Yeah. And we want to outsource everything to government. We can't actually tell our kids when they can't have junk food.
I had this conversation with someone a little while ago about this, and they said, and I said, look, my parents just said no.
Yeah.
Like, they just said no. I don't understand why that. And they said, it's hard. Yeah, well, that's parenting. And I say that as someone who didn't get to be a mum, would have loved to have been a mum. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But parenting, as my understanding and by observation, is not supposed to be a doddle, and it's not supposed to be easy. And when your kid wants cordial for breakfast, as I did, repeatedly, my parents said no. The other part of the equation, and I did read some coverage in the story that Tom sent through earlier, is that there are people for whom their food issues are actually mental health issues, and I say that having had some experience of that, as a lot of teenage and 20-year-old girls do. And the answer isn't legislation.
No.
The answer is never legislation. So we've become this country that looks at everything and goes, well, the government will fix it. We're going to tax sugar and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. It's actually not even close to touching the surface of what the issue is. And the bottom line of it is, like my late father had, and I've written about this, he was an alcoholic, and it's a hard thing to talk about. Legislating against booze wasn't going to save his life, and this is the same principle.
You know, it's not just about getting kids off their devices.
Yeah.
It's about getting parents off their
Right.
devices so they can go down to the park
Right.
with the kids and chuck a ball around and all the rest of it. Now, on to the Royal Report from last night. Caro, it's going to get very exciting for you. They're now talking about King Charles and Queen Camilla coming out to Australia possibly later this year. Already the states are lining up for it. Let's just clip together here Chris Minns, the New South Wales Labor Premier, and Jackie Lambie, the Senator from Tasmania.
Firstly, let me say we'd love to have the King and Queen in Sydney. I don't think you can really come to Australia and convince people back home that you've come to the country without coming to New South Wales, and in particular Sydney.
Oh, mate, surely the only state he's coming to is Tasmania. I mean, mate, we have the big spud. We have drop bears down here. I mean, why wouldn't you come to Tasmania?
Oh, they got to go to Tasmania now. The big spud and drop bears.
Do you know what I love, Chris? And this is not a swipe at you, because I send them in your direction all the time as a Republican. But all these Republicans all of a sudden lining up to get Duchessed. That's the bit that I really like about all of this. No. All of a sudden they're like, come visit me, be my friend. I'm so excited. The Royals are coming out. Look, we've known for some time that this was going to happen in conjunction with CHOGM in Samoa in October. So very exciting that the work is being done. Obviously, it's subject to the King's health and how that progresses throughout the year and how his treatment progresses. So, look, it would be wonderful for Australia to have its new King out. And look, I think he should go to all the states. I think he should visit all the states. As you know, all of us here, we all love this great country. I am just so amused. I am so amused that the Republicans are all lining up for a bit of attention. Love it.
Not this little black duck. You won't see me out there waving a flag. No way. I don't
you
want...
You watch the show, Chris. Come on. We know your dirty secrets, mate.
I stay on Sky and watch Caro's show because I want to give her some support, and now she uses it against me.
Well, that's because she's Sicilian. What can I say?
Great to talk to you again, Caroline Di Russo and Gemma Tonyuni.